Good evening, students. Good evening, all of you. Good evening. All right, let's begin with our class for today. Um, Yesterday, we talked about the Arthur Lewis model of unlimited supply of labor and how the unlimited supply of labor in an underdeveloped economy could be converted productively and divided or shifted into a modern sector, which is also called the industrial sector. So, we learned that. I told you all initially while we were studying about the Lewis model that further on this model was extended by Fay and Rannis to explain further agricultural development or agricultural economics. Okay, so I'm going to explain to you all in brief about the Fay and Rannis model also, because there has been like one of the questions regarding how Fay and Rannis has developed their model of growth and development over Lewis's model. So we are going to understand that firstly, and then I'm going to also tell you about the economic growth strategy given in the big push theory, that which is our agenda for today. Okay, so let's begin. Okay, now you all remember the Lewis theory already. So I'm just going to tell you all about what Fay and Rannis has actually extended this theory all about. Fay and Rannis are both economists, okay, who developed concepts regarding Fay and Rannis. Okay, both of these economists had developed concepts regarding agricultural economics, and their theories are more popular in very detailed stream of agricultural economics. However, when we talk about the model of Arthur Lewis, okay, we usually say that the this is the foundational this is the foundation of unlimited supply of labor theory, okay, over which this is an extension. Okay, so this theory was extended by Fay and Rannis both. Now, what did they say? What did they elaborate? Arthur Lewis, you all know that Arthur Lewis talks about two sectors, right? One is the subsistence sector, okay, and the other is the modern sector, right? Modern sector means the industry, while subsistence sector is the agriculture, okay. But this agriculture is not abundant in nature. This agriculture is for only survival, correct? However, when we talk about the Fay and Rannis theory, the Fay and Rannis theory actually talks about a third sector, okay, a third sector, and that third sector has been denoted by the modern agriculture sector. Okay, the third sector is nothing but the modern agriculture sector. Now this is something that has to be understood, that the modern agriculture sector is nothing but something that emerges as a result of technological progress in the modern sector. Yesterday also we discussed this, that um, Lewis himself had mentioned this concept but did not elaborate on it, and Fay and Rennes elaborated on it. So Fay and Rennes say that this new modern agriculture is technologically efficient, and it is actually a residue, or it's led by the modern sector's industrial development, right? Because the technological advancement happens in the modern sector, but then of course that technological advancement is shifted even in the agricultural sector, which helps the agricultural sector boost. Okay, then there's also another thing that Fay and Ranis mentioned, and that is the labor transfer. Now, yesterday, we discussed about a lacuna in Lewis's theory, which was about the labor absorption. That um, Lewis does not talk about labor absorption in agriculture sector. So, this lacuna has been again filled by Fay and Rannis theory. They say that labor is transferred from the traditional sector, or the traditional agricultural sector, to modern sector, which is again like the foundations of Lewis theory, and then from the modern sector to modern agriculture sector. So first, from subsistence to modern, and then from modern to the modern agricultural sector. So that's how the labor shifts. Why? Because probably reverse migration, because now technological development will lead the labor to go back to their roots, and they can start with their agricultural process, which was, or they can resume with their agricultural process along with technological know-how, along with technological skill. Okay, so that's again mentioned by Fay and Ranis. Then another point that has been extended by Fay and Ranis is regarding capital accumulation. Capital accumulation. Now, what is this capital accumulation? We have heard, but we have heard only along with the modern sector. Okay, so here Fay and Ranis extend capital accumulation as an integral part of both the industrial sector as well as the modern agricultural sector. That now agricultural sector also will require to accumulate capital to produce marketable surplus. The agricultural sector now is not going to be just for domestic use, or domestic to satisfy domestic demands, but the modern agricultural sector will be extended to more to creation of demands from domestic land as well as international land. So that's something that has been extended by Fay and Ranis. Okay, and of course, when we talk about all of these things, technological progress is something that um leads to all of these advancements, right? So it technological advancement, technological progress is going to readily make available the productivity in agricultural sector. It will increase the productivity, it will increase the output. Now, in Lewis's model, we stated that after a point of time, the excess surplus is going to go to the modern sector. So now the labor is going to be limited, but the labor is limited, knowledge is also limited. So Lewis did not elaborate on that. But Fay and Ranis mentioned that, see, technological advancements will happen gradually. The limited people in the agricultural sector or subsistence sector are going to learn new skills, how to use this equipment, how to use this technology. And that's how they are going to build the new and emerging modern agricultural sector, which is not just going to be limited to domestic demands, but it will cater to more number of demands. It will cater to marketable surplus. It will cater to supply of different types of agricultural produce. And that's how agricultural sector is also going to gain pace. Understood, everyone? Understood how Fay and Ranes develop the Lewis model and extend it? Yeah? Yes? Everyone? Did you all understand this much? Okay. Now, let's move to the next topic of our discussion today, which is the big push theory. Okay, the big push theory is again a very important and a very integral concept of growth and development. Okay, so we are going to talk about that. The theory of big push. In layman's language, what do we understand by big push? We say that big push is something that's like a huge push, okay, which gives a momentum to something. Okay, ma'am, how is capital accumulation different in this case? So, capital accumulation is different in the case where the capital accumulation was used in the modern sector for what? For reinvestment. Here, the capital accumulation is done for technological advancement. Yes. How did India's subsistence agricultural sector boost to become better? By high yielding variety of crops, by technical advancements, by techniques like sprinkler irrigation, right, water harvesting, by uh, different types of pesticides and different types of insecticides, organic and chemical both. It's a new thing, it's a new concept. By introduction of different types of equipments like harvesters and threshers and different types of harvesting and sowing techniques, the agricultural sector became better than it was previously 50 years ago. So how did we do that? Without capital, nothing is possible. पैसा तो देना पड़ता है हर चीज के लिए, right? So to attain, after attaining the when the modern sector attains technological development, that technological advancement will not just be limited to that sector. इंडिया में अगर किसी सेक्टर में कुछ ग्रोथ हो रही है, there's some new technology that appears, it will not be limited to only that sector, right? For example, if AI is available in a certain sector, it is not limited to only that sector, na? AI is going to go at each and every nook and corner. So, technological advancement is such that it is gradually going to develop for each and every requirement of each and every sector. And that's how capital accumulation is helping the third sector grow. And third sector is what? The modern agricultural sector. Understood? All right. Okay. Now, now what we understand by big push. Now, this big push is basically the strategy for economic development. Okay, this is a strategy for economic development. More than a theory, it is a strategy. Okay, the strategy has been given by an economist known as Rosenstein Roden. Okay, Rosenstein, Roden. Now, what does this theory suggest? When we talk about big push theory, this theory is explaining how an economy which is underdeveloped, or it is not really developed, okay, how can that economy be pushed to the realm of economic development? Okay, that's the basic underlying statement over here. Now, when we talk about development, we all know that ultimately an economy requires to reach the self sustaining path of growth. Okay, self sustaining path of growth means everything is under automation, and the economy is growing. Economy is experiencing growth, but it is all the processes, all the sectors are moving automatically. So ultimately each and every economy aspires to have a self sustaining path of growth. Okay, in this theory, Paul Rosenstein Roden has talked about three important problems that each and every underdeveloped economy has. Okay, and then he has mentioned that if these three problems are um, given some solution, okay, then the economy will attain that self-sustaining path of growth. Okay, so let's understand what are these problems. Now, the problems actually in his theory are called as the indivisibilities. Okay, indivisibilities is a term which is made of the term indivisible, जो divide नहीं हो सकता. Okay, divide nahi ho sakta means what? Something that cannot be divided, something that cannot be solved. Okay, these are the indivisibilities. However, it is just a literary translation that it cannot be solved. Ultimately, in economics we always seek problems so that we can solve them. Economists are not historians. History में क्या होता है? We always look back at the history and we say, oh, this was the problem, this was the problem with the king, this was the problem with the ruler, these were the problems because of which this happened. We always talk retrospectively, correct? But in economics we talk about future solutions. We talk about, or we seek, not just existing problems but future problems कि आगे क्या हो सकता है, and we try solving those in the present itself. कि अगर ये होगा तो ये solution है, वो होगा तो वो solution है. So economics is one such subject which talks about solutions first before actually acknowledging a problem. So in big push theory, Paul Rosenstein Roden has also talked about these three indivisibilities that exist in any underdeveloped economy, whether it is an underdeveloped economy of the 18th century or 21st century or 25th century. This is something that is going to be there, and economies have to retrieve themselves by giving the economy a big push. So, वो big push कैसे देना है, that also he has told. Okay, now what are the three indivisibilities that have been talked about? The first indivisibility is technological. Okay, the technological indivisibility. Then the second indivisibility is of demand, and the third indivisibility is the indivisibility of savings, or it's also called the financial indivisibility. Okay, now let's take up these indivisibilities one by one. Okay, the very first one is the technological indivisibility. Technological. Okay. Now, what are these indivisibilities? What are these technological indivisibility? When a firm or when an industry cannot operate properly, cannot operate efficiently. Operate मतलब क्या होता है? Operations, the daily, basic, weekly, monthly operations. Okay, for example, there's a firm which produces um, automobile parts. Okay, there's a firm which produces automobile parts. What are the different automobile parts? Okay, there can be anything from as small as items that hold the automobiles together. It can be as something like a chassis or a platform over which the whole automobile is built. Okay, it can be the designs, it can be the colors, it can be the product quality management department, it could be anything, right? All of these are operations, right? So if a firm is unable to operate efficiently, मतलब कभी तो डिजाइन खराब हो रहा है, कभी क्वालिटी में प्रॉब्लम है, कभी पेंट में दिक्कत है, कभी चैजी प्रॉब्लमैटिक है. Okay, so if such firm or a such industry is unable to operate efficiently below like a certain minimum scale of production, below a certain minimum quality, then we call it as a technological issue or a technological indivisibility, right? So if I say that, if I um, explain to you all in detail about it, when we say that um, this is like an idea that firms and industries have like a minimum scale of efficiency ki, it's called as the minimum scale of efficient production. Okay, it's exactly like when you, out of 100 marks, 33% is the minimum passing scale. You all agree? 33% usually is the minimum passing scale. So that is like the minimum passing scale for efficient, or minimum efficient scale for a student to pass an examination. Ki at least that person should get 33% in a subject. Okay, so similarly for each and everything that is there in the that is produced in a firm, that is produced in an industry, has a minimum quality scale, that it, the production should be at least this much minimum efficient level ki itna to hona hi chahiye. Okay, so if that industry, that firm is operating below that level, it means of course there are problems, right? तो इसमें क्या क्या हो जाएगा? Firstly, if such type of operations are happening, automatically there are so many wastages. Okay, wastages increase cost, so there's a huge amount of production cost also. Okay, which is limiting the firm to do proper action. Okay, thirdly, the industry is non-competitive. Competition करने के लिए there has to be some kind of quality. If there's no quality, there's no competition, right? So this type of firm, these type of firms are non-competitive, and some firm which is non-competitive is inefficient in the market, because it's just disrupting the whole market equilibrium by existence itself, right? So this type of indivisibility will create like a barrier to entry for new firms or industries, because it will be like a roadblock. Inefficiency, there's inefficiency in the market. When the new industries, when the new firms are going to enter into such market which has a lot of inefficient products, inefficient firms, people are not going to believe, People are who? Customers हो सकते हैं, stakeholders हो सकते हैं, they can be investors also. They'll be like, no, market में तो in the market there are so many problems. There's so many firms which are producing very low scale, low quality products. You might as well produce the same similar type of product. We don't want to invest in your firm. Yes. So quality quality is a huge problem over here. ओके, मिनिमम स्केल ऑफ प्रोडक्शन से कम है. ओके, लोअर देन मिनिमम quality standards, right? So in such firms make such firms create like a barrier to entry for new firms to establish in the market with goodwill. Okay, it makes it difficult for them to compete with established firms or industries, and that's what is called as the technological indivisibility. Understood, everyone? What is technological indivisibility? Yeah. Yes, Archana. Indivisibility is also in terms of factors of production. Well, you can say that the factors of production are also inefficient automatically. Let's say, although here we are talking about technological indivisibility, so we are talking more on the part of technology, technical know-how, technical skill, knowledge about the product, knowledge about the process. Okay, so we are more talking, Vrinda, about technology, right? Okay, Pari, did you understand the concept of indivisibility? हो क्या रहा है यहाँ पे? Yes. Okay, let us take an example of this. Okay, let's take the example of uh, let's say there's a product. Okay, um, there's a firm which is producing. Okay, there's a firm which is producing FMCG, fast moving consumer goods. Okay, I hope you all know about this FMCG, fast moving consumer goods. Fast moving consumer goods कौन से होते हैं? All the goods that you see in a supermarket: shampoos, soaps, biscuits, tea, coffee brand. All of these are fast moving consumer goods. Okay, because there are a lot of brands, there are alternative choices, variety बहुत है. So they are called as fast moving consumer goods. Now let's say that there is a firm which produces these fast moving consumer goods, and their line of products are soaps, okay, shampoos, and face wash, and okay, these three. Okay, so there's a firm which is producing soaps, shampoos, face wash. Okay, now what happened? Now this firm, it has technological indivisibility. Let's say this firm has technological indivisibility. Now there are quality standards. Okay, some quality and operational standards. क्वालिटी स्टैंडर्ड को चलो अभी थोड़ा दूर रखते हैं, ऑपरेशनल स्टैंडर्ड्स पे बात करते हैं. व्हाट आर ऑपरेशनल स्टैंडर्ड्स? दैट if there is a soap that has to be produced at rupees 5, shampoo that has to be produced at rupees 15, and face wash has to be produced at rupees 8. Okay, this is what, this is cost to the firm. Okay, कि सोप मार्केट में रॉ मटेरियल वगैरह के हिसाब से soaps should be produced at 5 rupees, shampoos should be maximum produced at 15, and the cost of face wash should be 8 rupees. Okay, so that's like the minimum operational standard. Okay, minimum operational standard. Okay, now it means what, that at this cost, this is the market cost, this is the market cost. Okay, इससे कम में भी बन रहा है. Okay, now let me give you some realistic figures. Okay, let's say this is 45. Okay, so that you guys don't sign off like market में क्या मिल रहा है. Okay, a shampoo maybe that costs you 245 rupees, the cost to the firm is 45 rupees. A face wash that is of maybe 98 rupees, the cost of it to the firm is 18 rupees, and the soap that is in the market at 45 rupees is actually costing you 15 rupees. Okay, ये ये सारे क्या हैं, the the things that I have marked in circle. Okay, what are these are your costs to the firm. Okay, now imagine that if the cost increases, okay, let's say because of this technological indivisibility and operational issues and wastages जो जो हमने अभी डिस्कस किया यहाँ पे, वेस्टेज है, प्रोडक्शन कॉस्ट बहुत ज्यादा है, कंपटीशन नहीं है, कंपटीशन करने लायक नहीं है फर्म, क्वालिटी स्टैंडर्ड इज वेरी बैड. सो व्हाट विल हैपन, बिकॉज ऑफ दैट the soaps that should cost the firm 15 rupees, they are costing them 25 rupees. The shampoo that should cost 45 rupees is actually costing them maybe 100 rupees. Okay, the face wash that should cost them 18 rupees is costing them 30 rupees. So now what has happened over here, what has happened over here, the firm has gone up with their production cost because of wastages, because maybe they are not using the proper type of material which is actually costing them more. उनकी जो ऑपरेशनल कॉस्ट है वो ज्यादा है. सेकेंडली ऑपरेशनल कॉस्ट और कैसे बढ़ सकती है, प्रोबेबली द चेन ऑफ ऑपरेशंस. व्हाट इज इट, द चेन ऑफ ऑपरेशंस is poor. Chain of operations means what, that the the department which has to produce soaps, okay, they are least bothered about the quality, they are least bothered about the quality checks. There are no efficient people in the laboratory is just very in a very bad shape. There's no maintenance. The operations department is not looking into what this soap department is doing, what the shampoo department is doing, what the face wash department is doing. Operations department managerial directions are very poor. They don't know what which department does, what type of quality standards have to be built. They are not scrutinizing each and every department, making them quality check. Nothing is happening. Because of all of these things, the cost has increased, right? सो यू मे थिंक कि अरे सोप का प्राइस, सोप का कॉस्ट इसलिए बढ़ा होगा क्योंकि रॉ मटेरियल उनको अच्छे से नहीं मिला होगा. रॉ मटेरियल इज वेरी स्मॉल थिंग for any firm. There are so many other operations that the firm has to do. Design of the design of the shampoo bottle, design of the soap, design of the face wash bottle. If that bottle is not accurate in size, shape, weight, what will happen? पता चला फेस वॉश की बॉटल का वेट इतना ज्यादा है कि कंटेनमेंट उसमें बहुत कम है, बॉटल का वेट ज्यादा है. कांच की बॉटल है, कहीं भी रखो टूट जाती है. ऑपरेशनल हैजार्ड. Are you understanding my point? When the research and development is low in the firm, quality checks are not balanced. All of these things lead to high amount of operational problems and inefficiencies. which is called as technological indivisibility. Okay. Now, in such type of markets where such type of firms exist, okay, which are just creating a ruckus, which are just creating a bad goodwill of that market, a bad goodwill of that sector, it becomes a major barrier to entry for other firms to enter into such market. बाकी के फर्म्स डरे हुए हैं कि बाप रे, these different firms are, flopping in this market segment, probably we should also not enter. So technological indivisibility is like a major problem in underdeveloped economies. Now, why it's a major problem in underdeveloped economies? Obviously, because managerial know-how is less. Okay, technological advancement is not there. Okay, whatever limited knowledge, whatever limited information awareness is there with people, with firms, they try operating, but most of them, most of the companies would fail, most of the firms would fail because of the operational hazards that exist in the economy, that exist in the market. Right? Understood, all of you? So here, under the big push theory, under the big push theory, to cater to technological indivisibility, what has been mentioned by Rodin. Now let's understand that कि ये problem है, तो इसको solve कैसे करना है. So there are three solutions that have been given by Rodin. Okay, understand this very carefully. So firstly, Rodin has mentioned that there has to be some investment in R&D. Correct? You all agree to it? Yes. Investment in R&D is very, very important in such cases. Why? Because the government, whether it is a government's firm or it is a private firm, they have to invest in research and development to develop new techniques and technological awareness and technological know-how, which can be further adopted by other firms also. Right? So first and foremost is research and development. Research and development is something which is not a temporary process. It is something which continues infinitely. Usually it's a misunderstood department कि R&D, हाँ R&D नया प्रोडक्ट बन गया बस खत्म, R&D का खत्म, काम खत्म. It's not like that. Research and development is a department, is a wing which should curate results, rethink about their solutions, rethink about new problems, rethink about what type of solutions could be better today. If they have already solved a problem, does not mean that should limit them, because it's a research department. Already the search has been done, but you can always research about it. Right? So there has to be some investment in research and development. Secondly, there has to be technological transfer also in the economy. Encouragement of technology transfer from developed countries to underdeveloped countries to developing countries through FDI, through treaties, through bilateral agreements, through licensing, or signing off the licensing agreements, through joint ventures should be encouraged. So countries should not limit themselves, because underdeveloped countries are also in the under the impression that they should not sign agreements with developed countries. It will just siphon out their money, etc. But on the contrary, there should be a lot of licensing. There should be a lot of agreements under licensing. There should be joint ventures. For example, when India opened up to world economy in the year 1991 with the LPG reforms, liberalization, okay, was one very important part Usually we focus on globalization, but liberalization was a very important segment which allowed agreements, mutual agreements to happen between firms, between international and domestic firms, so that technology could be transferred, awareness could be transferred, joint ventures could happen. Okay, of course under the authority of government, of course under the scrutiny of the government, but laws should be more liberal so that people could enact. And so different firms, when they share their technology, it's easier for the developing nations firm to absorb that technology and then mitigate the problems that they have, the operational problems that they have, right? So that's the second solution. And the third solution, of course, is again continuous activity of training and capacity building. Okay, training and capacity building. Now what is that? Training and capacity building is something that caters to um, provision of programs, workshops, seminars, sessions for workers, for entrepreneurs, for managers, so that they acquire the necessary skills to adopt new technologies. For example, when the computer revolution happened in India, uh, the IT sector, okay, the people in the IT sector, they were recruiting freshers, they were recruiting people who did not have any knowledge, but they just had some degree in technical, computer awareness, computer application. So they used to train people, they used to train people they used to take workshops. These big firms used to build people. Today Infosys and Wipro and even TCS, all of these are huge businesses, legacies. Why? Because they have trained people, they have built capacity in people. They have not just made processes, but they have made people. They have trained people into capacity building so that these people could propagate more information, more knowledge to others and teach them, right? So this is how the first indivisibility could be recovered from, as mentioned by as mentioned in the big push theory. Okay, tech transfer. Tech transfer means what? What is technological transfer? One company coming in contact with another company. One company has technology, another company has lack of awareness about that technology. When they both sign an agreement, when they both come together, that's how technology transfers. Simple? Understood? How is the technology getting transferred? Yes, it can happen domestically, it can happen internationally also. You all have heard about the sprinkler irrigation method. You all have heard about the sprinkler irrigation method. This methodology of irrigation, the drip irrigation and the sprinkler irrigation, is not the technology inherent of India. We have had this technology transferred from Israel. Israel is a very, very important hub of agricultural technologies and agricultural practices. The India Israel agreements and the India Israel agricultural agreements have led to technological transfer, especially for drought prone regions and for those regions where flash flooding is a problem, so that we could protect our agricultural sector in different terrains, in different geographical parts, but still utilize water properly. So drip and sprinkler irrigation comes from there. Understood, everyone? Yes? Okay. Now let's talk about the second indivisibility. The second indivisibility is the demand indivisibility. Demand indivisibility. Okay, now what is demand indivisibility? uh, when we say that the demand for product or the demand for a service is um, not sufficient to support so many firms and so many industries, that is called as demand indivisibility. Okay, when the demand for a commodity, when the demand for a service is not sufficient, okay, the demand is not sufficient, okay, or adequate to support multiple firms and industries in that market, that is demand indivisibility. Okay, I'll give you a small example. Today when you go to a supermarket, can you count on your fingers the number of brands that are selling biscuits? Yes, there are plenty of brands that sell biscuits. Do you all agree? Yes, do you all agree to it? There are plenty of brands which are selling biscuits. There are plenty of brands which are selling different types of sauce. Yes, plenty of brands which are producing different types of shampoos, different types of items. Correct? ये market में कैसे आए? How are they existing? Because there is a huge amount of demand for these products. There is scope for variety of firms to enter in such a market. You may think that who eats this type of a biscuit, who eats that type of a biscuit, who eats chocolate biscuit, who eats anjeer wala biscuit, who eats jeera wala biscuit. You might think that, but there are thousands and lakhs amount of people who visit supermarkets on a daily basis, who have a variety of demands and variety of preferences, and because of these consumer preferences the demand rises for such different types of firms to enter in the market and create that product and supply it. But if the demand for such products is not sufficient in the market, if the demand for a certain product or a certain service is not sufficient, not adequate, so if more number of firms try to enter that market, what will happen? अगर डिमांड नहीं होती तो क्या हो जाता है? There's a supply glut, right? That sector, that segment or that market will collapse because there is nobody whom we can sell to. Supply तो बहुत है, market में products are plenty, but whom do we sell to? Because there is no enough demand. So such type of a problem is called as demand indivisibility. Okay, so how will it occur? Such type of a problem will occur when the demand for a product or when the demand for a service is very limited, which makes it very difficult for multiple firms or industries to operate profitably. Some firms will be profitable, but the others are not going to be profitable. So this again is a challenge for whole economy, and big push theory also caters to this challenge. Okay, so according to the big push theory, okay, there are again three things that could be done. Okay, three ways in which this demand indivisibility could be solved. Okay, firstly, investment in infrastructure. Okay, investment in infrastructure. What does this mean? किस तरीके का infrastructure बनाना है? Now, the government has to come as a front runner, because in underdeveloped and developing economies, private firms are less. So government has to take the front seat. So governments should invest in infrastructural development. And what type of infrastructural development? Like public utilities. Okay, public utilities. What are public utilities? Roads, ports, telecommunication, all of these are public utilities, right? Such type of infrastructure should be built by the government. Why it should be built by the government? So that there is an increased access to markets and reduced transportation cost. What does it offer? Increased access to market, increased access to mainstream market. Okay, what was the problem earlier with products could not reach different towns and cities. Even today, the metro cities, the products which are available or the brands which are available in metro cities, 10 years 20 years later, they are going to be reaching the smaller towns, tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities. After 50 years, probably the villages are going to be a part of that product or that service, right? Simple concept. Swiggy, Zomato, you all know. Yes, Swiggy Zomato is available very capably in metro cities. Even till 5 a.m. it's available. In tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities, it is available till 2 a.m. Okay, at night. But in even restricted towns and smaller towns, smaller cities, it is either available till 12 o'clock at night, or it is not available at all, even today. So even Swiggy Zomato has not been able to penetrate in such demand less or demand insufficient zones. And we are calling ourselves as a developing nation. तो बताओ कि underdeveloped nation में क्या होता होगा? Are you able to connect to this point properly? Yes. Are you able to understand the first solution given in Big Push theory about demand insufficiency or demand indivisibility? Everyone? Second aspect is marketing and you can say marketing and promotion. Okay, marketing and promotion. Now this is a wrong concept that if the firm or if the product or the if the service is um, in today's also we only have 2 to 3 options of shampoo. Yes, exactly, that's lack of demand. Why? Because they have not reached the mainstream, they have limited access, they have limited purchasing power. All of these combined gives them lack of demand, right? Okay. Second solution to this problem, marketing and promotion. Now the point is, till now and even today, it's thought, it's a big misconception that something that is of quality will automatically be sold. Okay, you must have heard about this statement that if the firm of the product and the service is of quality, if it's a good quality, then it will be sold. See, automatically nothing happens. We are out of the Adam Smith invisible hand era, and which is why we know that automatically nothing happens. We have to intervene, and processes have to be interjected. Okay, who will make the intervention? Either the government will make the intervention or the private entity is going to make the intervention. Okay, since 1930s only we have come to know that when the economies and the countries emerged understanding macroeconomics through Keynesian model, we understood that we cannot wait for anything to happen automatically. Nothing happens automatically. There is a process through which we have to go through. So which is why marketing and promotion are very important. When we look at market equilibrium, the concept of microeconomics, market equilibrium concepts, right? Market structure. You all have read about monopoly, monopolistic competition, oligopoly, etc., etc. So the the one of the features is of monopolistic competition is what? Advertising. What is that? Where does it come from? Marketing and promotion itself, right? Advertising, of course, is one small segment, but marketing and promotion is something which is like a umbrella term. So governments and firms need to invest in marketing and promotion to increase the demand. Demand kaise badhegi? How will people know? When people will know, people will buy. People will buy products. When people will see products, people will buy. But if they cannot imagine a product or a service that they might need, okay, or that they might want, how will they purchase it? So demand for the product could be increased through marketing and promotion. That's your point number 2. Understood point number 2, everyone? Yes? Okay. And lastly, the third point, or the third, you can say, solution given by big push theory is trade agreements. Okay. Now what does this mean? What are trade agreements? Here, negotiation of trade agreements with different countries can happen to increase the access to foreign markets. Marketing promotion से आपने domestic market में तो capture कर लिया, but how do you give your people access and awareness to foreign markets? Through trade agreements. When a country will have trade agreement with different countries, okay, their products are going to come across, their products are going to come to your country, your products are going to go to their country, and that negotiation is going to bring about more access to foreign markets. Okay, again, that will increase the demand. Why? Because when people will see a product, when people will be able to see the service, when people will be able to understand their needs and wants, they will be able to purchase it. That's why many companies invest in marketing a lot of product itself. Yes, Archana, that's a compulsory thing. And almost all companies, if the company is not marketing its product, it means the company is going to soon shut down. Marketing is the most important part of any firm, any company. Okay? Marketing is a very important tool. Marketing, usually people misunderstand marketing with advertising. Marketing is not advertising. Okay? Marketing is making people aware about your product. Now, how you make your people, how you make your audience aware about your product is advertising. How? कैसे करते हो? Tools are advertising. But the sole essence of marketing is to make people understand that these are your needs, these are your demands, these are the services, these are the features of the product, and that's how marketing happens. Okay, so these are the three solutions presented by the big push theory for catering to demand indivisibilities. Okay, now let's lastly understand about the third indivisibility. Okay, which is what? Which is savings indivisibility, which is also called the financial indivisibility. Means the thought behind advertising is marketing. The thought nahi beta, umbrella term. This is your umbrella. Okay, which is called as marketing. Okay, under which there are various things like branding, promotion, PR, advertising, copywriting. All of these are small, small angles of the umbrella term of marketing. Okay, understood? Okay. Now, the third indivisibility is the financial indivisibility. It is also called the indivisibility of savings. Okay, in some books or in some piece of content, you will find as the name as indivisibility of savings. Same ही है, ठीक है? What does this mean? I'll also write over here savings so that you will not get confused. Okay, indivisibility of savings. What does this mean? Financial resources are required to establish a firm or an industry. Okay, and if those financial resources are not available, it will be a problem, right? So here it actually talks about the savings that are there in the economy. Okay, the saving amount of saving that is there in the economy. Here the idea behind financial indivisibility is that the financial resources required to establish firms and industries are not available at all, or are not available in smaller amounts. Okay, this type of indivisibility is going to create barriers to entry for new firms and new industries, because it will just make things it will just make the access to the market very problematic, or access to the necessary financial resources very problematic. So this becomes a major constraint, this becomes a major issue. Okay, here we talk about the indivisibility related to or the, you can say, when in an underdeveloped economy, or in even in a developing economy, so developing economy, what actually happens is that the savings, or the you know the economy is not really mature enough to have financial support. If you talk about underdeveloped economy, okay, let's not compare our economy presently, but comparing weaker economies, okay, in developing economies or underdeveloped economies which do not have financial support, or which do not have integrated financial inclusion, or they do not have proper banking sector. Okay, some centralized financial activity is not there. That becomes the indivisibility of finances or financial resources. So this Maldives. Here what happens actually technically is that the idea of savings is not always limited to how can I say, the idea of savings is not always to cater to only what we save. It's actually the economic, or the holistic idea of the whole economy. How much investment is desired in the economy? Are we able to substantiate that investment with the amount of savings? सेविंग्स नहीं होंगी तो इन्वेस्टमेंट नहीं होगा. सेविंग्स कहाँ होते हैं? बैंक्स में होते हैं और फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशंस में होते हैं. बट फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशन में पैसा किसका होता है? लोगों का होता है. बट अगर लोगों को पता ही नहीं है कि बैंक में जाके पैसे जमा करना है, तो हाउ विल दिस होल सर्कुलर इकोनॉमी वर्क? So there's a requirement of a certain minimum amount to start a business. There's a requirement of a certain minimum amount for certain desired investment. If you have to get like a solar plant at the rooftop, okay, solar plant, minimum requirement is of 1 lakh rupees. You cannot start with 20,000. You have to bulk it up to 1 lakh. So there is a certain minimum amount which investment requires. If you have to invest in water harvesting system, if you want to invest in solar panel system, you will have to give at least that minimum required, desired money, which will come from the circular economy. If the circular economy is not really efficiently working, or if the banking sector is weak in the economy, okay, it becomes a huge issue. So, firstly, it starts with financial inclusion. If the financial inclusion has not taken place in the country, it becomes a huge problem, because if the banking sector has not penetrated at each and every level, people are not going to park their surplus funds, and everything is connected from there itself. People, if do not park their surplus funds, this surplus is the only thing that is getting circulated, getting increased, money is being multiplied. If there is no circulation, no money is being multiplied, multiplier effect nahi hoga. So understanding it from core economics, that's what is the third and the most problematic situation of a underdeveloped economy, that there are financial indivisibilities. Understood this point, all of you all? Yes, did you all understand? Did you all understand the concept of financial indivisibility? Yes. Yes, okay. Now finally, according to the big push theory, what are the solutions that are given? Can we say that all three is telling about the minimum requirement of something? Yes, Archana, very good point. Very nicely noted. All three indivisibilities are telling about the minimum requirement of either demand or technology or operations and efficiency or financial resources. Very good. Yes, you have understood it properly. Okay. All right. So here in under big push theory, the first solution that is provided for um, you know catering to the financial resources indivisibility is firstly investment in financial infrastructure. Okay, financial infrastructure means what? You all have heard about the jam trinity scheme by the government. You all remember about the Jam Trinity scheme, Jan Dhan Mobile Yojana. Everyone to be connected through banks, through Aadhaar cards, through phone numbers. One important decision, one important scheme that has led to mass financial inclusion. Within a year, there has been around 75 to 80% of the people who have been included financially and connected financially through systems, through government portals. This makes things easier for government to provide their services to. Because if people are not connected, government एक जगह बैठकर तो सर्विस नहीं प्रोवाइड कर सकती, but now they can do. Sitting at one place, the government through portals could provide different financial services to people, and that has been possible through a very good scheme of the government, Jam Trinity. Jandhan Aadhaar Mobile. Yes. So that's the first step, investment in financial infrastructure. Okay. Financial infrastructure does not always mean कि banks बनाओ. बैंक बनाना एक तरीका है. But बैंक तक ले जाना भी तो पड़ेगा किसी को. How will people know that banks are important? Banks are somewhere in a village, in a town, they are there, but how will people know? And also, banks are not social service systems, they are not charitable institutions. Banks are for profit motive. Banks are businesses. So, banks also need to earn some profit. If the banks are not producing any profit, then it means that there is some lacuna in management and operations. So, which is why it's very, very important that there has to be financial infrastructure. Financial infrastructure also means how spreading of awareness of financial resources takes place in the economy. Okay, so government can invest in financial infrastructure like banks, awareness, bank assurance, credit unions, microfinancial institutions, microfinance, fintech, and all of these possibilities, okay, which can give access to credit to people. Secondly, it can also go for the public private partnerships. Public private partnership, PPP model. Encouragement of public private partnerships will mobilize the private sector investment and expertise, and government's authority is going to make things reliable and trustworthy, and that's how access to such financial resources could be given, right? So that's what is the solution to financial indivisibility. Understood both these points, all of you all? Is this theory understandable to you all? This is what the theory is all about. This is what the theory of Big Push talks about. Okay, I'll be sharing with you the theory of Lewis along with this one. Okay, so that you have material with you all. Okay, so give it a read, give it a proper read, and understand the points. Okay, um, and understand the summary. Read the theory so that you have more content to write about. Okay, usually the Big Push theory is asked for either 5 marks, not more than that. Okay, so you need to know the concept and you need to know these different terminologies, points, indivisibility terms, etc. Okay, so that's what it is. All right. All right, so that's it for today, everyone. All right, and I'll see you all tomorrow, okay, with the next theory. Okay, bye bye.